So I just finished Billie's documentary, The World's a Little Blurry, and I have a feeling that right now all the conditions are in place for her to kind of disappear for a little after her next record. Let me explain. So Happier Than Ever is Billie's COVID record, and I'm starting to label these kinds of records COVID records because they all come from a similar place. These are records that rely on heavy doses of self-reflection. With Billie on Happier Than Ever, it's how she's been treated by the press, her significant others, and probably most importantly, herself. The opening track kind of says it all. She's trying to be happier than ever, but with everything that's happened to her, the path to that seems more confusing than anything. She's understandably not too happy about the fact that the thing she loved doing, making music, has taken on a new role in terms of function and feeling as just a source of employment. On top of that, Happier Than Ever is Billie's sophomore record, which when you have a really successful debut and don't really know where to go after that, you experiment a little and you release something that's a little bigger of a project, and fans usually aren't as happy with it, which is exactly what happened. Although if you're asking me, it's still a really solid offering in terms of Billie's growth as a person. On top of all of that though, this is allegedly Billie's third record in a 3-record deal with Interscope, after which she's kind of free to do whatever she wants. Now what's that mean for this third record? What's it gonna be like? What's gonna happen after? All valid questions that I have reasonably confident predictions for. I think what usually happens after a COVID record and what we've seen start to happen is just write freaking love songs again. We're at a point in history where one of the worst things ever has just basically finished happening. A little hesitant on that, but finished happening. And since the internet moves fast, we're already sick of hearing it. So with that sentiment in mind, I think a lot of artists are leaning into this idea of let's just make people have fun again, or let's make people fall in love again, either one. I think that's why you saw this huge resurgence of dance music this year. Stuff that demands less thinking and more feeling, stuff that's more communal instead of isolating. And I think Billie's on track for this kind of a release. Not a dance record, but just something that's happy. Her debut is super dark in the coolest way. Her sophomore record was a little bit like apathetic and self-reflective and melancholy all at the same time. And I think for her final record in her contract, the easiest and most fun thing to do would just be write love songs. And she'd be great at it. Now, if you're asking me what's gonna happen after this album comes out, after watching the documentary, I think it's pretty safe to say she is gonna disappear for a bit. She's been constantly on the move since she was 16, never a moment to herself. It's so exhausting, she doesn't even want to be in the music machine anymore. There are a bunch of lines in Happier Than Ever that hint at exactly that. Plus, if you're asking me again, I think the best inspiration for a new record is just living life. Letting life happen to you. And Billie hasn't really had an extended period of time where she just gets to let life happen to her. She's always been touring, writing, or recording. Imagine she goes away for like 3 years after putting out the most fun, lovey-dovey, replayable record, right? And just starts collecting life experience, just pulling a Frank Ocean essentially. And then we get this super mature, nuanced 4th record from her at like 24 or 25 that's just really well informed and chock full of life experiences that we haven't heard from her before. That's where I see it going, and that's what you should look out for in terms of her trajectory. If you like this video, check out this deeper dive I did on Clairo that kind of like very specifically outlines a similar arc. I think you'll enjoy it.